Hello, my name is Chris, and today I'd like to share a few thoughts, ideas and suggestions on quitting smoking with depression. This is about if you're thinking about quitting smoking or you just realise that it's probably a good idea, but you currently have depression and all of the awful symptoms that go along with it. Maybe that you see cigarettes as a means of coping with your depression and you're just not, convinced that you can't cope without them. Or it may be that you already feel so awful in your depression and you just can't see how you could possibly handle quitting smoking on top of that. Or it may be that your circumstances are similar to mine, where you have a history of depression but you're currently doing okay, and your concern is more that quitting smoking is going to trigger a relapse back into depression. If you have any of those concerns or any concerns at all about quitting smoking and depression, I think the first and most important thing to say is that's okay. I think it's perfectly reasonable and logical and sensible to be concerned that something might cause us harm in some way. That's not me saying that quitting smoking causes harm. I just think it's perfectly acceptable to be concerned about what might happen over the process, especially if we already know how terrible our depression can make us feel. But what I want to stress the importance of in this video is realizing that the longer we smoke, the more we are actually prolonging our own misery. The more we are keeping ourselves in our depression and maybe even making it worse. If you haven't yet seen the video that I made last week about the links between smoking and depression, I really would encourage you to go and watch that first before you continue with this video. I'll put a link in the card above and the description below. And I really think it's a good idea to go and watch that, because watching that video will put so much of this video into proper context. In that video we talked about how, although people who are prone to depression are also more likely to smoke, it's also true that the more we smoke, the more likely we are to experience symptoms of depression. And lots of studies have been done that show that smoking has a negative impact on our mental health that can make depression worse, and therefore quitting smoking is actually one of the best things that we can do to improve our mental health. And on the subject of using cigarettes to cope, using cigarettes as a kind of antidepressant, we talked about how a study was done which showed that cigarettes didn't really improve a negative mood. They didn't have much impact on a negative mood, except in circumstances where a person hadn't smoked since the day before. So there was a period of abstinence and then a person smoked, and then they did get some kind of positive impact from that. But I argue that that's less to do with the cigarette putting in anything positive and more about just relieving the withdrawals that come during a period of abstinence from nicotine. That's just about taking away the discomfort. It's not actually about doing anything pleasurable. That to me is like having a stone in your shoe and wandering around with a stone in your shoe for hours and then finally taking it out and getting that relief. And then saying, well, I've figured it out now. What I need to do to feel better is to put a stone in my shoe for a while until it gets really awful, and then take it out and I'll feel better. That just sounds crazy, but that's kind of the same thing. That's the only reason that smoking makes us feel better. And it's so important that we know this, because I understand the logic behind when people say, well, I'm going to deal with my depression first and then I'll quit smoking. I'll tackle my mental health and then I'll quit smoking. Not realizing that the smoking is actually keeping us in that depressed state, or not necessarily keeping us, at least, preventing us from fully recovering, from fully feeling better and enjoying improved mental health. So actually, if we quit, it can certainly help improve our mental health, and if it doesn't completely eradicate the depression, it at least makes it more, at least makes it more possible to deal with. The question then, of course, is how do we do that? So what I want to do now is I want to offer just a handful of suggestions that may be helpful to you to navigate your quit smoking process if you have depression or a history of depression. How to make it a little bit more comfortable, manageable, and show yourself that you absolutely can cope. I think if we want to quit smoking with depression, one of the most important things to begin with is to do an appropriate amount of preparation. I say an appropriate amount of preparation because it's very easy to spend so much time preparing that we never actually do the thing we're preparing for, right? Like, say we want to take up exercise. So we go, all right, I'm going to go and do some exercise. But first I've got to research what exercises to do. Then I've got to research what the best exercise clothes are. Then I've got to go and buy the clothes. Then I've got to put some time in my schedule. Then I've got to do this and that. We never actually get to do any exercise because we're always preparing. The same with smoking. I think some level of preparation is important, but only to the point that we get what we need. And I think there are three key things that we need to prepare. One is people, one is things, and one is trigger responses. Start with the people. And let's start with the professional people. You may find it a very good idea, if you want to quit smoking with depression, to consult your doctor, or if not your doctor, your therapist, or whichever professional person is aware of your depression and aware of your circumstances. Check in with them. At most, they may be able to offer you some support, some guidance. At the very minimum, they at least, are aware of what you're embarking on. So that if something, I'm not saying that things are definitely going to go worse for you, but if your mood dips, if a problem arises as a result of quitting smoking with depression, or if just your depression takes a turn for the worse, somebody in a professional capacity is aware of that. And they can sort of help you to monitor yourself and monitor your progress. And if you're not already speaking to a professional person, it might be good to at least check in with somebody first. I know this should sound obvious, but for all I can stand here and really speak honestly and openly and tell you things that I genuinely believe might help you, I'm still just a guy on YouTube talking to a camera. And in terms of mental health especially, professional support is always advisable. So check in with whichever professional person that you're dealing with, because they can help you to monitor and manage this process, and then you're not alone. The other person to check in with, the other person to speak to, is literally someone that you can trust and that understands you. Someone you can say, hey, I'm doing this thing, I'm going to quit smoking, but I'm concerned about how it will impact my depression. Can you please just keep an eye on me? Can you please just be there if I just need to talk or vent or cry or whatever the case may be? You know, and it might be easier to ask them to keep an eye on you rather than just to say, you know, just be there. Because I know when I'm depressed, everybody always says, if you're depressed, reach out for help. When you are depressed, well, I say you, when I am depressed, the one thing that is the hardest thing in the world to do is to reach out for some help. So having someone, you know, to say, look, I'm going to do this, can you please check in on me? You know, and at a minimum, if those people don't exist in your life, I am going to recommend our Facebook group. It's facebook.com/groups/findingfreedom1. It's not a mental health support group. It's not a crisis group. It's a quit smoking group first and foremost. But if the rest of the community will allow me to speak on their behalf, I think it's a very compassionate community, and people will at least, you know, be willing to offer some words of encouragement or whatever the case, or whatever you may need. You know, I think that's the case. The second thing to prepare, you've got your professional in place, you've got, you know, somebody there to check in on you. The second thing to prepare is your self-care kit, or anything that you may need to help make you more comfortable as you go through your journey. Last year I made a video about my self-care kit, or my self-care box. It looks like this. I stock it full of stuff, like, you know, just stuff that helps me to feel comfortable. You can go and check out those videos again. The links are in the card and the description below. And this box, I put in things that are not necessarily going to cure my depression. You know, in this box is not the answer to my depression. It's the things that will help me feel comfortable and help me tolerate those feelings when I feel like shit. Now, what's in my box is probably going to be different from what's in yours. I have a picture of my niece because she just fills my heart with love. I have, you know, basic self-care things like shampoo and conditioner and toothpaste and a toothbrush, shower gel, so that I can take care of my hygiene, because when I'm depressed, my hygiene is one of the first things to go. I have a journal in there. I remember iPods? I still have an iPod in there with some music that uplifts me. And again, these things are not to make everything better, but just to make it okay. I'm not saying that quitting smoking is absolutely going to be awful for you. You might just go through it without too much difficulty, but having things in place that can just help you ease your way through that process can only be a good thing, right? You know, it may be that you have a pillow and a blanket so that you can just curl up on the sofa. It might be that you put some hot chocolate in there, or for me it would be chamomile tea. I love that stuff. You know, whatever you need to put into your kit. It may be contacts of some friends, it may be your favourite movie, a favourite book, whatever you need. And the third thing to prepare is your trigger responses. Although normally I would say, you know, the best time to quit smoking is now, so don't have another cigarette. You know, I appreciate I say that and nobody ever listens to me. You know, but so you can spend a couple of days being aware of, you know, what is making you, is there anything that kind of triggers your feelings that makes you feel worse? Is there anything that triggers that insatiable compulsion to smoke? Make a note of them and then note down what can you do in those situations instead of cigarettes. You know, the way you might word this is, okay, so this thing happened and I felt this insatiable compulsion to have a cigarette. I chose a cigarette as my reason, as my way of responding to it, because these are the things that I feel I gain from a cigarette. And then look at what are some other ways that I could gain that same feeling. So if the idea is I smoked because I was stressed and I thought cigarettes were going to alleviate my stress, they don't really do that. Cigarettes don't alleviate stress in the way that we think they do. But I can absolutely see why we get conditioned to believe that they do. So then the thing becomes, well, I was stressed, so what's another way that I can alleviate my stress? Maybe it's breathing, maybe, it's running around, burning off all the excess energy. Maybe it's just getting into a room and shouting. What can you do in those trigger responses to deal with those trigger responses? So you've done your preparation, and that's enough. That's adequate preparation. Get some people, get some stuff to help you through. Get an idea of what triggers you and what you can do about it. And then approach this quit gently, kindly, and with all of the self-compassion and self-care that you need. All of the self-care and compassion that you can possibly muster. When we're depressed, when we're feeling low, it's very easy to get into this frame of mind that I don't deserve kindness and I don't deserve self-compassion. Although that might be the story that we tell ourselves outwardly, inwardly there is a part of us that doesn't believe that. If you are watching this video, there is a part of you that believes that you are worthy of self-compassion, that you are worthy of any compassion, and that you are worthy of kindness. Because you're thinking about quitting smoking, and quitting smoking is an act of kindness. It's freeing ourselves from all the crap that we've put into our bodies, freeing ourselves from the inner conflict of this is bad for me but I'm going to do it anyway. Quitting smoking is an act of compassion. And the fact that you've even thought about quitting smoking and then thought I'm going to watch a video about it, that's an act of self-compassion. When it comes to the actual quit, this kindness and compassion may take different forms depending on where you are. It may be that you've gone, right, that's it, I am done, I'm never having another cigarette ever again. And for some people that does work. For other people that can cause untold amounts of anxiety. Oh my fucking God, I've got to do this thing forever. That's very overwhelming. So be kind and compassionate. Maybe, nobody's telling you that you have to quit smoking forever. Quit smoking for today. Quit smoking for this morning. Quit smoking for this afternoon. And then when you've done that, assess how it went. Actually, that was okay. There was a bit in the middle where I kind of, felt like shouting my head off, but I got through it. And you know what? If I feel like shouting my head off, as long as I'm not shouting at somebody and making them feel bad, then it's okay to go into a room and just go, yeah, right? Self-compassion might be that if things don't go perfectly, you give yourself that forgiveness. I would absolutely love to hear from you that you quit smoking and never had a relapse and everything went amazingly well. I really would. But I also accept for a lot of people, quitting smoking on the first try doesn't always happen. And that's okay too. The fact that the majority of people don't quit on their first attempt means, that there's nothing wrong with you. It's part of the process. You're not bad, you're not weak, you're not incapable. You are on a journey. You are learning. I said in a video a while ago that, quitting smoking is a process of unlearning, learning and relearning. We unlearn the fact, we unlearn this idea that we have to respond to every situation with cigarettes. We learn how to live life without them. And we relearn how to be that little person that we used to be as a child who never even considered cigarettes as an option. And learning sometimes means effing up, figuring out what went wrong and doing again. Self-kindness and compassion might be that if you are feeling like crap, you take a day, you take an hour, you take whatever you need to deal with that and to feel crap. It might be a duvet day, it might be a Netflix day, or a walk, or phoning a friend, or cooking a nice meal. Whatever it is that you need, you allow yourself to do that. Self-kindness with no permission needed from anybody else. You know what self-kindness and compassion is for you and what you're going to need to help you get through this process. When I talk about being gentle, what I'm talking about, among many other things, is making sure that you are safe. Because I think, above anything else, that is what is most important, is ensuring that you are safe. And this means, if you have reached a point on this journey where your depression is so low and so bad, that it is dangerous, scary, or where you just feel, I just can't cope anymore, that you're able to reach out to that doctor, that therapist, that supporting, understanding friend, maybe to a complete stranger. On my website I put together a list of helplines and useful organisations in the United Kingdom, the United States, Canada and I think Australia, which is where I could find most of them, so that if you are really struggling and you feel unsafe in your depression, if you feel unsafe in your journey, there are always options to reach out to. I think that's been, if I can just be entirely honest with you, the thing I've been most nervous about making this video is, I just want you to be safe above all else. So be gentle. There's no need to dive in and treat this as a punishment. Quitting smoking is not a punishment. It is an act of self-kindness. And it's a reward for acknowledging that part of us that realizes we do deserve some self-compassion. And to keep that in mind as we go on our journey. Speaking of the journey, the last thing that I want to suggest is never losing sight of why we are on that journey in the first place, and keeping that goal in mind. When we quit smoking, we aren't just getting all those untold numerous health benefits. We aren't just getting some extra cash in our pockets, we are improving our mental health and well-being. Time and time again, it's been shown that quitting smoking can improve mental health. And while I can't stand here and absolutely guarantee you that you're going to feel amazing forever, that you'll put that cigarette down and never think a depressed thought ever again in your life, I can't guarantee that. But what I am pretty certain of is that quitting smoking is going to be one of the best things you can do to improve your mental health in the long run and finally overcome that depression. If it doesn't completely eliminate it, it's going to make it that depression much more manageable, treatable and easier to overcome. If we quit smoking with depression, I've said quit smoking with depression so many times it's all I'm capable of saying. If we smoke whilst we are dealing with depression and we're trying to overcome our depression whilst still smoking, that is like trying to clear a sandpit by standing on the outside and emptying the sand out of the sand pit, while somebody else stands at the opposite side of the sand pit filling it back in with sand. Because that smoking exacerbates and prolongs our depression. So no matter what we do to try and overcome our depression, as long as we are smoking, all this other stuff is only going to have a limited impact. I hope, above all else, that has made sense. I hope it's giving you something to think about. I hope more than anything that no matter what you do as a result of watching this video, even if it's nothing, that you stay safe, that you stay well, and that you feel okay. Thank you so much for watching today. Before I go, just a reminder that we are doing the live stream on Saturday, March 27th at 6:30 p.m. UK time. For my American friends, I think that's 4 or 5 hours before. I'll double check that. The link for that is in the card above and the description below, so that you can set a reminder, because I know that some people were upset last time that they missed the last one. Finally, of course, I need to tell you about my book. Well, I don't need to, but I'm going to. It's called Quit Smoking and Be Happy, and there is a whole chapter on depression. In fact, I think there's a couple on depression and dealing with that. Available from Amazon. Again, you know where the link is. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Goodbye.